to me, if that isn't unconditional love, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it is. But I think we have so many filters, and that's the problem. We have to remove the filters because we have so much noise around us. It's like we are driving a car and we are in a driver's seat and the car is moving. And if we are distracted by all the noises and turn our heads all the time just to pay attention to the noises, we'll crash the car. We'll have an accident. I think it's the same with the life because
Yeah.
noise, we'll have all the time noise. It's really up to us how we control the noise. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Today, we are diving deep with a special guest who's making waves in the world of self love and transformation, Ashley Abramson. Ashley helps people understand and love themselves better. She's known as the ego whisperer by those she's worked with. Besides her work as a coach, Ashley is a 3 times international best-selling Amazon author. Ashley, welcome to the podcast. I'm so impressed with your work.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and so grateful that our journeys cross paths and we get this beautiful opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. So let's dive in. How did you become known as the ego whisperer? If you can explain that to us.
Yeah, I mean, it's really because when I have a conversation with people, what they say is that I'm able to immediately remove all of the conditioning and take you to a place where authenticity exists and it's just pure love. The ego is really that place of fear and sacrifice and separation. And I
Mm,
have the ability to see through that. And essentially, that's why they call me the ego whisperer. So, yeah, that's really how I've gotten that.
that's amazing. And why it is important to make the ego feel safe, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I think at the beginning of your journey, we have been so taught to live within the ego, which is making
Mhm.
decisions out of fear. And even if it's not consciously, it's happening subconsciously. So if we're beginning a journey together of healing, you've lived in that place for so long. And if I come in just guns a blazing and
Mm,
attacking your ego, we're going to get nowhere. So it's really the ability at the beginning to acknowledge that the
mm,
ego is in there and that you
uh,
have these fears. And it's not about dismissing them, it's about seeing them, bringing them to the light, and allowing the weight to be released so that you can move forward to a place of love. But again, if I came in there like, hey, ego, that's bad, this isn't good, you shouldn't, you couldn't, all those things, it's just going to create more shame and guilt because the reality is that is where probably 95% of people operate from is a place of the
mm.
ego, which is fear and separation.
Yeah, and I think we learn so much from our parents, family, friends, so we have to sometimes forget what we learn and
Mhm.
start to like restart our brain.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I like when you said we have to acknowledge because I think a lot of people just ignore. They think, oh, this is a
Mhm.
bad thing. I don't wanna go there. I don't wanna, but I think it will come, right? It will come
Mhm.
back. So if we ignore, it's not
Yeah.
actually helping at all. So I
Okay.
wanted to ask you if you have any examples from your past or current clients. Of course, we don't need the names, but if you can give an example,
Mhm.
so yeah, so see how the unstuck works.
Yeah. So essentially, when I talk about coming in and really, it's not necessarily about honoring the ego per se, but honoring the state in which we've been in. And I equate it to a small child being scared that there's a monster under their bed, right? They tell their
Mhm.
parents, I can't sleep, there's a monster under my bed. And the parent comes in and turns on the light, and they realize it was just a little mouse. It
Mhm.
wasn't this massive monster. So really, I become that mirror and that flashlight to help people see that in fact this massive thing that's been holding them back really wasn't they what they thought it was all along. um
Mhm.
so I mean, it happens in a multitude of areas. Most often I find the biggest fears that are holding us back are around our worthiness, right? I
Mm.
think that is I think we're all struggling from that because none of us meet the cookie cutter expectations of society or our parents or our teachers. You know, you're always doing something wrong, and the reality of that is because we're all different. We all believe we're
Mhm.
different here. So it's really understanding, where did those stories come from and do they make sense? Because when we're a child, we build these walls and these resilient techniques to survive. We think it
Yes.
is truly meant to survive, but then the problem is, as we become an adult, they're no longer needed. And it's really interesting because Pablo Picasso says we spend half of our life learning to become a child and the other half learning, or half our life learning to become an adult and the other half learning to become a child.
Mhm.
But the way I see it is, we spend half of our life learning to become an adult and the
Yeah.
other half remembering that we always were a child, and those things that we were taught we needed, actually
Mhm.
we never did. They were false.
I know. And social media is not helping,
Mm-mm.
unfortunately. And I always said we have to ask ourselves questions. Where is the reality? Because, like you said, the expectations, we think the other person has expectations, but in reality, it's really us thinking that
Mm-hmm.
person has like high
Yeah.
expectation, or I don't know. And this is why I always encourage like conversation, communication, asking questions,
Mm-hmm.
asking asking ourselves where is the reality actually, if it's real
Right.
or it's just in our minds. So I think, and also when people go for interviews, for job interviews, because I work in employment services for so long, and I think always like my clients were like so scared, and I try to explain them, you're dealing with human beings. So the
Mm-hmm.
interviewer is a person. It's
Right.
yes, represents a company, but it's a person. So you are dealing with
Mm-hmm.
a person. So to try, to be authentic, real, honest, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you don't know the question, it's okay. Just be honest and yeah,
Right.
say that. So I think you're right. I agree. What's the unicorn effect? How does it help
Ah.
people? So please explain first what that means, and then
Mhm.
how it actually helps people.
Yeah, so the unicorn effect is really, I came across that when I stepped into my authentic self and really understood what truth is to me. And it was because I felt like this magical, mystical creature that we're taught from a child is never, it doesn't exist, right? It's never meant to be seen. It's only meant to be dreamed of. And as we turn from a child into an adult, we're taught by society, like, you're not meant to be seen. You're not meant to be heard. You're meant to be something
Mm,
else. And so the unicorn effect is really about standing in your authenticity and being
mhm,
true to you and leading a life of pure love and not coming from a place of fear. And it's just like the butterfly effect. So the butterfly effect is, if a butterfly flaps its wings halfway around the world, it can create a tsunami, because that's how intricately woven we are. And the unicorn effect is when you are standing in your authenticity and you are coming from a place of love, even the smallest thing, as a smile
mm,
towards a stranger, can
mm.
literally change the world.
Absolutely, I agree. And
Yeah.
yeah, I really like the fact that said this, the authenticity itself, like self authenticity or authenticity itself, because where we are like kids, people are asking, "What do you want to become when you grow up?" Instead of
Mhm.
"Who do you want to become?" Like
Right.
because you can work in different roles, right, in careers, but the
Mhm.
person you become, it's important. So I think
Mhm.
it's more important people to to be more focused on who do you want to be.
Right.
And
Well, and I think we have so much to learn from children. So I'm in the process of writing a book, and I share in there my greatest teacher of all times. And I've had some amazing teachers, and we all today have access to amazing gurus. But
mm,
to my surprise, the most amazing teacher I ever had was under the age of 2.
oh, okay.
And it was the ability to see life
Mm,
through her eyes, and the
mm,
ability to watch the amount of curiosity and the resilience and the complete release of weight and just pure joy in every single
mm.
moment. And so I think often, like you said, we ask the children, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or, like you said, which I love, who do you want to be when you grow up?
Exactly. Yeah.
How about instead we ask them, who are you now? And how
Mhm.
can I learn from you? Because, yeah, we have to protect children as far as meeting the rules of society and survival.
Mm,
But we know when you become an adult, survival looks so different. It's not just about eating every day and putting clothes on and brushing your teeth. It's
mm,
about finding that place of eternal peace and happiness. And
mm,
I think children hold the key to that. But as they're raised into this adult, they get further and further away from that essence of just complete innocence and love and curiosity. I mean, I did child protection for a long time, and
mm.
children would be severely abused by their parents, like severely, and they just loved them so much.
Oh,
To me, if that isn't unconditional love, I
yeah.
don't know what is.
Yeah, it is. But I think we have so many filters, and that's the problem. We have to remove the filters because we have so
Mhm,
much noise around us. It's like we are driving a car and we are in a driver's seat and the
mhm.
car is moving. And if we are distracted by all the noises and turn our heads all the time just to pay attention to the noises, we'll crash the car. We'll have an accident. I
Mhm.
think it's the same with the life because
Yeah.
noise, we'll have all the time noise. It's really
Mhm.
up to us how we control the noise. If we allow the noise, other people to think for us.
Yeah.
And I think it's not other people are like are doing wrong to us, but I think it's the amount of how much we let them, to
Mhm.
be in control in our life. Energy is
Yeah.
important because we are always
Yeah.
talking about time. We don't want people to use our times or we don't want to waste time. How about the energy? Because the energy is equal important, I guess,
Mm.
in my opinion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
I mean, I think for everyone that looks different, and uh it's the more you unpack yourself and understand yourself, the more you don't see things as energy wasters, but you're
Mm,
able to find the opportunity in everything. I'm a
mhm,
firm believer that people only, or things, not even people, events, whatever, only upset us because there is a small piece of us that has a belief of that. So, I'm not saying this is true for you, but for someone, if they went through the same scenario as you today, the reason why they got so upset could in fact be that in the past they didn't value their own time,
mhm.
or growing up their parents didn't value them. So it's
Yeah.
prickling a piece within that we still haven't fully unpacked yet. And the
Mm,
more you unpack, the less anything carries weight. It just, like, my favorite statements are, it just is, or I just is. And it's
mm,
really a vision of complete relinquishment of weight. And that is truly the place to eternal peace and happiness, is not allow it's not even about allowing, right? Because allowing is also kind of a loaded word.
mm,
Allowing is almost like it's an action, so therefore that places responsibility, and
mm.
responsibility immediately creates weight. But when
Mhm.
you untie yourself, it just doesn't happen anymore,
I
right?
know.
It just is.
Yeah. But you're right. We have to start with ourselves first. We cannot
Oh yeah.
expect other people to, to the things we are not believing or doing ourselves first. We have to be and we have to have a conversation with us
Yeah,
sometimes. And
which you did today. You took
yeah.
a step back and you
Mhm.
understood what you wanted to choose and how to
Mhm.
respond and what felt right to you, and that's really what getting curious is about.
Mhm.
You didn't just let it take control of your day and ruin it and poor me and all this.
Yeah.
Instead, you took back what
Mm.
some people would say their power or whatever, but It's more like you just stood back in to
Yeah.
where you've always been.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, because I was so excited meeting you. I saw the topics and I say, no, nobody's going to ruin my day. I'm going to be, in a zone. I want to, to be able to listen to you because when you're like upset, you cannot focus. What do you think self care really means?
Mm. Uh, so yeah, I mean, first I'll talk about with what I think the vast majority of people believe self-care is. And it's the massages and time away from the family and date nights and all that. And it's not that those aren't wonderful,
Mm,
but they by no means will actually help you in the moment of darkness, in a moment of pain. So what I truly see self-care as is doing the work to really get to know yourself and to unpack the narratives and to choose what narratives you want to live by. What
mm,
better way to take care of yourself than to realize how you want to live and to take a step into that place
mhm.
and to come from a place of love? Because reality is, it earlier you were talking about, we were talking kind of about people being mirrors and judging. And if you feel that someone is judging you, that means you first judged yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you are coming from that place, you are constantly attacking yourself
Mm,
first. So no matter how many bubble baths or wine Wednesdays or pedicures or manicures or massages or any of that you do, you are still constantly attacking yourself. It will
mm.
never make up for the pain that you are causing in your mind.
I know. So, do you have any examples? I can give you my examples. I can show you my the way take care of myself. But do you have any examples how we
Yeah.
can take care of ourselves?
Yeah, so I would say the most important first step is to get curious. So that's bringing
Mm,
awareness.
mm,
Start asking yourself questions about the smallest, silliest things that you would be like, Ashley, why do I care about this? Because the
mm,
reality is, how you do one thing is how you do all things. So I'll tell you a story. I've been curious my whole life, but I was told that it wasn't acceptable. So I
mm,
began to shut that down. And then after my divorce, I was blessed with a woman that held the light for me and reminded me of how powerful my curiosity can be. And we all have the same curiosity because we were all children one time. And so I really started to get curious about why I operate the way I do. And it wasn't just about the big things. I started with the small. And it was as small as, do why do I wear my shoes in the house, or why
mhm.
do I not wear my shoes in the house? And when I
Oh,
ask clients that question, oftentimes their response is, because that's how it's always been. That is a red flag right there, that you did not
yeah.
make that decision. And it
Mm,
doesn't mean that you need to change it, but it means you need to acknowledge and take ownership that, okay, I don't want shoes in my house because I don't like dirt on the floor. It's not because
mhm.
it's how it's always been, but it's because I'm making a conscious choice for
Yes.
that. So when I was moving to Florida, I was in the process of literally unpacking everything, getting curious about everything in my mind, is what I was unpacking. And I was going to buy a brand new car. Well, I had always bought silver cars. Even growing up, my mom had silver cars. And I was looking at a new RAV4, and of course, I was looking at a silver one.
Mm,
So I hadn't made a full decision yet, but I knew I didn't want a white one. I didn't know why, but I knew I didn't want a white one. And I called my mom up and I said, "Hey, mom, I'm getting a new car." And her first response was, "You better not get a white car." And a light
wow.
bulb went off. And I was like, do
Wow.
I not like white cars, or did I learn that?
Mm,
So, bet your bottom, I currently own a white car because I needed to test that. Like, do I
mm.
really not like cars? And I have found that I love white cars.
Yeah.
But if I would have never got curious, I
Mm,
would have still been operating under my mom's narrative that, who knows, maybe she learned that from my grandma, or someone else told her your car's ugly one time.
yeah,
I don't know where she got that narrative, but I don't need to have that narrative.
I agree. And it's because we trust people. We trust like our parents, our family members, even friends. We give them credit. So if they tell us something, we will trust them. Like we don't even question their
Right.
opinion. And yeah, I know. And to me, yes, I'm working on this, but also I'm very careful with what I eat, when I eat, the amount of sleep I'm getting,
Hmm.
my friends, the people I surround with. So
Hmm.
I think this is
Yeah.
a way of taking care of myself, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. And I agree with that. But if you think about it, how often do people try to eat healthy? And
Yes, I know.
how long does it usually last for them? I think only like 85% of people are successful in continuing that journey. So
Yes.
what I'm talking about is the fundamentals, right?
Mm.
When you understand why you believe you're unworthy and you unpack that and realize your worthiness, and then you decide to start eating healthy, start sleeping better, it just comes. It's not this there's barriers or inability to do so.
Okay, how about intentional living? What's intentional living?
Oh, so I think
Mm.
a lot of what we've talked about today already. So, for example, me not liking white cars, and I didn't even know
Mm.
that it wasn't my like or dislike. So, when you
Mhm.
step into that place of intentional living, of course, it's the word being intentional, but you can't be intentional if you don't first get curious and then choose how you want to operate. Like, do you want to live a life of integrity and, whatever it may be? What are your
Mhm.
values? But then once you have those pieces, understanding why you already do the things you do, and then intentionally taking time to say, do these match my values? Is this truly providing me with the foundation I need to create the life I want? And
Yeah.
I think most of us, it may look different to everyone, but we're all just looking for peace and happiness, right? At the end of the
Yeah.
day. And some people chase it in money and some people chase it in fame. And let's be honest, Steve Jobs said on his deathbed, I mean, he had more money than, I don't know, all of us pretty much put together in the world,
Mhm.
and his one regret was not spending more time with his family. So
Absolutely, yeah.
if money really provides time,
Yeah.
freedom, peace, and happiness, wouldn't Steve Jobs have been like one of the most happiest,
Mm.
free, freedom filled people in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are the steps someone can take to live more intentional? To
Yeah.
just a few steps, if you can, yeah, tell us would be great.
So essentially, any transformation or ability to live intentional has the
Mhm.
key foundations that are always the same. And I call it CPR squared for spirit. And essentially,
Mm.
that's taking time to get curious, right? Asking those questions, bringing awareness, then understanding the perspectives that are there for you that you can choose from. So then shifting your perspective, releasing the weight. So that's really releasing all outcomes, right? Because we
Mhm.
have no clue our true potential, only our highest self does.
I
And
know.
then when we get curious, shift our perspective, release the weight is only when we can remember which, or, you could call it get back in contact with your highest self, which is your best guide. I mean, some
Mm.
people may call it the Holy Spirit, some may call it Buddha, whatever you want to call it. It's that internal guide that holds the entire roadmap to your
Yeah,
success. But so often we forget to listen. We
I
have
know.
forgotten to listen.
Yeah. And if we don't try, we don't know,
Mhm.
right? If
Exactly.
we do every single day the same thing over and over again.
Mhm.
um, I am reading Rene Rodriguez's book right now, and one of the examples in this book is if you pay somebody to go into a water full like of sharks, like white, big white sharks, you can pay whatever you want to pay. That person is not going to go in that water. But if a mom see her child in the
Mm.
water, she will jump.
It's the value.
Is the value. So we have
Mhm.
to chase the value, and we have to align the values, the um, like you said, the intention, the everything we need to make everything works. And
Mhm.
I don't think it's just one thing. I think they're like pieces, and we
Mhm.
have to pay attention to like different things and
Yeah.
learn all the
Mhm.
time, because we and of course it's hard right now because like social, not social media, but in general internet right now are bombarding us with so much information. It's so hard to
Mhm.
distinguish and see what's good, what's not so good, what we can use, what's the truth, what's not the truth. But then, like you said, we are curious, so then we will want to find
Mhm.
more about that information we are getting.
Yeah.
How about the be me, like the
Mhm.
big miracle energy?
Yeah.
What it is first?
Yeah, so it's really what happens too when you're living the unicorn effect. So
Mm,
I see miracles as not what many people think of when they think of miracle. Where like, oh my gosh, this person lived; they were going to die. Yes, that's a miracle, and it's beautiful. But in fact, when you come from a place of love, you can look further down the road back at your actions and your journey and be like,
mm,
wow, that was really miraculous. So
yeah.
it's small shifts in perception from fear to love is what creates a miracle. And it
Mm,
brings so much beauty and enrichment in your life. And
yeah.
I like to say it's not about learning, it's about remembering, right? Like we
Mm,
all contain access to the knowledge. It's just up to us to remember, and that's to clear
yeah.
out the noise. And when it comes to shifting your perspective like that, a really great book, if you your listeners or you yourself haven't read it yet, it's short, is called The Gift of Maybe. And it
Mm-hmm.
very much helps you to understand that really nothing is good or bad. It's all about how you
We
perceive it.
perceive, yeah.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. So, what was your inspiration behind starting this community of Be Me?
Uh, um, I think it was my own journey, of course.
Mm,
I had done everything. I had found myself in church, then I had found myself in the new age movement, and I had found myself believing I was a little god and could do all these things, and nothing ever fully made sense. But the
mm-hmm.
problem was, like you said, social media is telling me what I'm supposed to think.
Mm,
And so it was a struggle because my
yeah.
life didn't look like everybody else's. And I was doing the things, but it still didn't make sense. And that curious piece of me kept asking questions. And then I found truth. And I would have loved to have a community where there is no judgment. There is no, it has to be this way or
Yeah.
it has to be that way, but it's really a place to explore and support one
Mhm.
another. I live by the quote, Ram Dass, we're all just walking each other home. And that's
Mm.
really what I created Be Me from, is an opportunity for you to be you. And when you be you, big miracle energy shows up.
Mm.
And we're here to support one another, whether you are an atheist or a Buddhist or a Catholic or, whatever. We're here to get curious together and make sure we are living in alignment with our truest self.
That's absolutely amazing. Do you have your books with you, or the book right now
Uh,
to
I
show?
have, yes, I actually have all three of them by me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're actually collective books. So I've written a chapter in each. The first book I wrote, or first chapter I wrote was in Lineage Speaks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great book. It's about women who carry the torch for future generations. So it's a bunch of stories of women who essentially have shifted the generations of their family by
Mm.
doing the work themselves, by finding their own truth. Then I did Where Social Work Can Lead You. So
Mm.
essentially, I was a child protection social worker and lived in that world for a long time. And through my learning there around trauma and inner child work is how I was able to create this business I have. And then Divinity Speaks. And
Mm-hmm.
Divinity Speaks is really about women who tune in and trust in divine inspiration. And yeah, it's really beautiful. how that goes in order. And as well, if you don't want to buy the books, they are amazing books and contain a lot. But if you just want to hear my stories,
Mm-hmm.
on my website, I've compiled all of my stories together, and it's called The Journey to Big Miracle Energy. So it's all 3 of my chapters compiled into one. But either way, they're all great stories.
Anything you want to add, or I don't know, send a message to our listeners?
Yeah. So really, like I end every post and every conversation with someone, remember you're worth it. I think when I was
Mm,
in the darkest place, that was such a powerful statement for me, because we think everybody else is worth it, but we forget that we are.
mm.
And it's not always easy, but I promise it's simple, and it's so worth it, and you are so worth it.
Oh my God, it's beautiful, pure beautiful.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for being
Thank
with us
you.
today, Ashley. We really appreciate your insights and the time you took for our podcast. And to our listeners, I hope you found this as enlightening as I did. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It means the world to us. And until next time, yeah, take care. And again, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Ashley.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.